1 receipts. 14 months. 1 timestamp, 11:47 p.m. I find it by accident. Sloane's work laptop is open on the desk because I need to print a shipping label, and mine is in sleep mode, and I'm tired and not thinking about anything except the label. Her browser is still logged into the resort's photo account. Some tagged corporate social thing, I assume, until I see the image. Sloane and a man I recognize as Donovan Weston from the Meridian holiday party photos, standing at a bar strung with Christmas lights over dark water, his hand low on her back, her face turned toward him, and the expression on it is one I have not seen directed at me in a long time. The geolocation tag reads, Dock and Dram, Mira Cove Marina. The timestamp in the file properties reads 11:47 p.m. I read it twice, closed the laptop, set my hands flat on the desk. 4 seconds. Then, I open a private browser tab. Here's the thing about competitive gaming at the professional level. You develop a specific kind of attention. You learn to read information before your opponent does, and act on it before they know you've moved. The gap between seeing and responding collapses to almost nothing. You stop feeling the moment and start processing it. The grief, if there is grief, gets filed for later. There is always a later. Right now, there is only the board. I pull 3 months of her calendar sync, 14 blocked evenings. Conference preparation. I cross-reference the hotel's public event listings. 0 conferences on those dates. Not one. I open a new encrypted folder. I don't name it. I start filing. The drive to Petra's takes 11 minutes. I park on the street. The back door is cracked open the way it always is when there's wine and the kitchen gets warm, and Sloane's voice carries through the screen with a clarity that feels almost deliberate, like the night itself wants me to hear it. She's laughing. Wine loose, easy. The laugh she uses when she's comfortable and not performing. Then, the words, clean through the screen. Look at me. I'm stuck with him. I sit with that for exactly as long as it takes me to get out of the car. I set my keys on the porch rail. I walk inside. Sloane turns from the counter, wine glass halfway to her lips, still smiling at whatever came before. I say 4 words. Stuck? You're free now. I turn. I walk out. I pick my keys up off the rail. I get in the car. She's out the door before I reach the end of the driveway. Bare feet on the asphalt, calling my name. Not screaming it. Calling it. The way you call someone when you think they're making a mistake, when you still think you can explain it away. I can see her in the rear view, and I notice, in the specific driveway, I notice things when my brain has already moved past the emotional register, that she's still holding the wine glass. I don't accelerate. I don't look back. I just drive. She's still standing there when the taillights round the corner. The coast road at midnight is empty and cold. Window down, salt air coming off the water in long, flat gusts. I call Ellis. 2 rings. It's time, I say. I know, she says. I've had the drive ready for 6 weeks. I don't ask how she knew. I already know how she knew. Ellis has always been 3 steps ahead of everyone in the family, including me. And she has been watching Sloane the way you watch weather. Not anxiously, just accurately. The Pelican Court rental is dark when I pull in, but the key is where I left it, under the second porch board from the left. I've been paying the lease for 3 months. Direct debit, separate account, line item labeled storage unit in the household budget. Sloane never looked at the bank statements. She assumed I didn't either. She was wrong about a lot of things. The house is weathered cedar, salt-bleached, sparse. It faces open water. It costs nothing to leave and everything to find, and I found it on a Tuesday in January when I was already starting to understand what I was looking at and needed somewhere to put the understanding. I furnished it in a weekend. A folding table, 2 chairs, a mattress, the streaming setup in the ocean room. I set the hard drive on the folding table. Outside, the water is black and flat and indifferent. The laptop is still on the desk at the house in Ashford Heights. Sloane's account is still logged in. The photo is still there. I left it open on purpose. I want her to find it exactly the way I did. I want her to sit with her hands flat on the desk and understand what it feels like to read a timestamp and know. Ellis arrives Thursday morning with a hard drive and a printed timeline. She lays it on the folding table facing the ocean without preamble, the way she does everything, efficiently, without ceremony. 41 hotel receipts, 14 months. Cross-referenced with Sloane's calendar blocks, cross-referenced with Donovan Weston's corporate card statements, which Ellis obtained through a contact at the card company I did not ask her to name. Month 4, Ellis says. I saw his hand on her back at the Meridian holiday party. You asked me to wait. I pinned the first receipt to the board. Waiting's done. The board is a cork board I bought at a hardware store. It covers most of one wall. Ellis has printed everything in order. Dates, amounts, locations, the calendar blocks beside them like a before and after. The Harborview Inn appears 7 times. The Dock and Dram appears in the geolocation data twice. Here's what Sloane did not know about me, what she apparently stopped bothering to find out sometime in the last 14 months while she was otherwise occupied. I am Rourke. Online handle. Competitive esports career spanning 9 years. Current streaming income $340,000 annually. Audience of 2.1 million. The name on the checks is Declan Marr. The name on the leaderboards is Rourke. She knew about the gaming. She didn't know about the money because she never asked, and I never offered, because it was mine in a way that the joint account was not, and some part of me had always kept it separate for reasons I didn't examine until now. The hard drive casing is cold aluminum, the corner edge sharp against my palm when I pick it up. I hold it for a moment, feeling the weight of 3 years of archiving, and then I set it down next to the receipts. This is a complete financial picture, Ellis says. Separate accounts, streaming income, the coastal property Celeste mentioned at Thanksgiving. You're not the one who's going to come out of this without resources. I know. She doesn't know that. I know that too. My phone buzzes at 9 a.m. Friday. Unknown number. Text, Harborview Inn, March, twice. I'm sorry I didn't say anything sooner. I call back. It rings once. Pruitt, I say. Yeah. Pruitt Langley. I've known him for 4 years through the events circuit. Mild, forgettable, the kind of man who is present everywhere and noticed nowhere. He staffs the corporate events Meridian runs, which means he has been in the same rooms as Donovan Weston more times than either of them would now find comfortable. We all knew, man. Nobody wanted to be the one to tell you. My jaw tightens. I file the text as Exhibit C. I need a signed statement. Yeah, he says before I finish the sentence. I figured. He emails the files while we're still on the phone. Parking structure photos, Harborview Inn, March, both dates. He had to slip past a security gate to get the shots, he tells me. Had to badge in on a borrowed card and move fast before the overnight guard came back around. The images are clear. Donovan's black SUV, license plate visible, timestamp in the corner. I add them to the board under Exhibit C. The board is getting full. Ellis finds Renata Voss through a LinkedIn connection. Former Meridian employee, 18 months gone, connection to Donovan's department listed as previous direct report. She doesn't have to explain the significance. I call the number Ellis gives me, and Renata answers on the second ring with the flat calm of someone who has been expecting this call for a long time. Stillwater Cafe, she says. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. I'll be there when you arrive. She is. Folder on the table, coffee untouched, hands folded. She has the specific stillness of someone who has rehearsed this scene in their head enough times that the real version no longer surprises her. He does this to everyone, she says. It's not about your wife. It never is. Her folder contains an HR complaint she filed in 2022, quietly buried by a department head who reported to Donovan. The complaint is detailed, dated, corroborated by 2 colleagues who signed supporting statements that also went nowhere. She slides it across the table like she's been waiting for a surface level enough to put it on. How many? I ask. She slides a second page across. 3 names with dates. I photograph it. I order her coffee. She lets me, and for a moment neither of us says anything, and the fluorescent light from the back of the cafe catches the edge of the printed pages and makes them look slightly warm, like they just came off a printer, like they're still fresh. After Donovan, Renata says, almost to herself, I spent a year not trusting anyone. A friend pushed me towards singletune.com. It makes you answer questions about what you actually believe before you see anyone's face. I thought it was stupid. She picks up her coffee. Then I realized I'd never done that with Donovan, not once. I had no idea what he believed about anything. I just knew he was there. I half listen. I'm photographing the second page. The name singletune.com lands somewhere in the back of my mind and stays there, Not filed, not dismissed, just present. Thank you for the complaint, I say. Thank you for using it, she says. The board at Pelican Court takes shape over Friday and Saturday. Ellis photographs every panel. Full timeline, receipts, Pruitt's parking structure photos, Renata's HR complaint, the original geolocation screenshot with the metadata visible in the corner. The hard drive casing sits at the base of the board like a foundation stone. Cold aluminum, corner edge sharp. Saturday night, Sloan calls Ellis. I'm in the ocean room when it happens. I can hear Ellis's side of the conversation through the open door. I'm not your answering service, Sloan. Pause. I don't know what you want me to tell you. Longer pause. Something falls in the background of the call, audible even from the ocean room. A glass, maybe. Something small and breakable. You should call a lawyer, Ellis says. That's the most useful thing I can tell you. She hangs up, comes to the doorway. She destroyed your secondary setup at the house. A neighbor texted me a photo. I look at the photo. 2 monitors, smashed. Capture card pulled from the rack, cord hanging. The secondary rig I'd used for 4 years. I open the folder. Add the photo under property damage. Note the timestamp. She's panicking, Ellis says. I know. That's not good for her. No, I say. It isn't. At 2 a.m., I sit alone at the folding table. The ocean outside is dark. Renata had mentioned, almost in passing, that she still had access to Donovan's personal email, left over from when they'd shared an account during the relationship. A password he'd never changed because people like Donovan assume they're the ones doing the watching, not the ones being watched. She gave me the login. I open the screen. Sit with it. 11 minutes. There are threads in there that would end his career in a single forward. 1 email to the VP, and it's done tonight. I can see the move from here with complete clarity, the way you can see a checkmate 4 moves before you play it. I close the laptop. Not because it's wrong, exactly. It's the kind of wrong I recognize in myself, the kind that would feel clean in the moment and leave a residue I'd carry for years, the kind that would make me someone I'd have to explain to myself afterward. I note the darkness, I file it, I go to bed. The board is complete. 41 receipts, 3 corroborating witnesses. 1 buried HR complaint about to be refiled with my name on the cover letter. I know exactly what happens next because I've watched enough competitive play to know you don't attack when you're ready. You attack when they think you're still grieving. Day 8. I go live. The stream is 47 minutes. I title it, Why I Went Dark. I set up in the ocean room. Secondary monitor, ocean light coming through the window behind me, pale and flat and present. 2.1 million subscribers. The notification goes out at 9 p.m., and by 9:04, the viewer count is already climbing past 40,000. I don't use names, I don't use accusations. I speak in the language of competitive strategy, which my audience is fluent in, because that's the only language I've ever used on this channel, and I'm not going to change it now. I describe what it looks like when someone on your team has been running a different game for 14 months. I describe the architecture of a long con, the calendar blocks, the alibi structure, the way a pattern predator operates, the way they use institutional cover to move between targets. I describe it with the precision of someone who has studied the replay footage, frame by frame. I don't say Meridian Consulting. I describe an industry, a company structure, a department size, a geographic region. The gaming community does the rest within 3 hours. Forum threads identify Meridian by the industry details alone. Someone posts a screenshot of the Doc and Dram's public Instagram, the same Christmas lights visible in the background of the geolocation photo. The thread hits 400 comments before midnight. I'm not watching the comments. Vesper is. Her message comes in at 11:22 p.m. after the stream ends. She's been in the production queue the whole time. I can see her moderator tag in the logs, flagging coordinated harassment attempts before they could muddy the signal, keeping the comments section from becoming a circus. I hadn't asked her to. She'd just done it. That was precise, she writes. You want me on the next one? I type, yes. The next evening, she calls in for a production meeting. She has a voice that moves efficiently. No filler, no performance, just the next thing that needs saying. She's been community managing Discord servers for 3 years, she tells me. since her own situation 2 years ago made her reassess what she was doing with her time. I found your stream through Singletune.com's community board, she says. They have a section for people rebuilding after major life changes. Someone posted your stream. I thought you should know it's landing with people who've been through it. I'm checking the stream metrics while she talks. Values compatibility, I say, half to myself, reading the phrase back from something she'd said a moment before. That's what the app is built around. Values compatibility before anything else. I sit with the phrase after she logs off. Values compatibility. It's exactly what was missing. Not attraction, not shared interests, not proximity. The thing underneath all of it. The bedrock question of whether two people believe the same things about how a life should be lived. I don't sign up. I just sit with it. The way you sit with a word that you've been using wrong for years and have only just noticed. Renata's HR complaint lands on the VP's desk on day 9. New filing, new cover letter, my name and contact information at the top, Pruitt's signed statement attached, the Harborview parking photos attached, the original complaint's corroborating statements resubmitted with a note explaining why they were buried the first time. The VP's name is Ashford. He has been watching Donovan's department for 2 quarters, according to Renata, who still has contacts inside Meridian who tell her things. Ashford reads the complaint in one sitting. By end of business, Donovan Weston is on administrative leave. I find out from Ellis, who finds out from a Meridian contact, who finds out from the Slack message that goes to the wrong channel. The kind of mistake that happens in a company when something moves fast and nobody checks the distribution list. Donovan figures out the parking photos came from Pruitt. It takes him until the next morning, which is either slower than I expected or exactly as slow as someone in denial moves when the walls are closing. He finds Pruitt in the Meridian parking structure. I hear about it from Pruitt himself, who calls me from the lobby of the Meridian building with the specific calm of a man who has just done something he did not plan, but does not regret. He shoved me against a concrete pillar, Pruitt says. I broke his nose. Are you okay? Yeah. It was one hit. Flat hand, straight across. Pause. Security got the whole thing on camera. The footage goes to HR. Already sent, Pruitt says. I emailed it from the lobby. I think briefly about Donovan's face in the parking structure, the entitled certainty that Pruitt would fold, the practiced read of a man who has spent 20 years correctly identifying who will back down. The one time in his career he read it wrong. Mild, forgettable, present everywhere. The witness nobody thought to ask. Sloan learns about the administrative leave not from Donovan, but from the Slack message she wasn't meant to see. She calls me. I let it go to voicemail. She calls again. Voicemail. Then a text. You did this. I read it. The read receipt activates. I put the phone face down and go back to the board. She drives to Ellis's apartment. I know this because Ellis calls me while it's happening, phone held slightly away from her ear, so I can hear Sloane's voice in the background, raised, accusing, the specific pitch of someone who has identified the wrong target because the right one won't pick up. Come in, Sloane, Ellis says. Not a question. A sentence with a door in it. The call goes quiet for a moment. Then I hear paper. The sound of a folder opening. 41 receipts, Ellis says. 14 months. This is the geolocation data from the first photo. This is the Harborview parking structure, March. Both dates. This is Renata Voss's HR complaint from 2022, which your boyfriend buried through a department head who owed him a favor. Silence. Then the sound of paper hitting the floor. The folder thrown, sheets scattering. I'll print another copy, Ellis says. I've got the file. The door slams hard enough to crack the frame. Ellis tells me this afterward, describing it the way she describes everything, accurately without drama. The crack runs from the upper hinge to the doorstop. She photographs it and sends it to the property manager. Celeste calls Ellis the next morning demanding that Declan stop this campaign. Her voice, Ellis tells me, has the particular quality of a woman who has decided she is the wronged party in a situation she does not yet fully understand. Ellis sends her the full dossier, every receipt, the geolocation data, the 3-year timeline, Renata's HR complaint, Pruitt's statement, the parking structure photos. Celeste calls back 40 minutes later. Her voice is flat. The protective certainty is gone, replaced by something I recognize as the specific silence of a person revising everything they thought they knew. I raised her better than this, she says. Pause. I owe you an apology, and I owe you something else. She calls me directly that evening. The apology is brief and precise and means exactly what it says, which is more than I expected. Then, she tells me about the coastal property, the one Sloan had mentioned at Thanksgiving, the one Sloan had told me Celeste was leaving to charity. Celeste is mailing me the original deed. She has already called her attorney. I sit with that for a moment. The ocean outside is doing what it always does, moving, indifferent, present. You don't have to do that, I say. I know, Celeste says. That's why I'm doing it. The deed arrives 3 days later. I set it on the folding table next to the hard drive casing and look at them both. Cold aluminum, corner edge sharp. Paper, slightly warm from the envelope, like it just came off a printer. She's standing in a parking lot where her affair started, screaming at the man she said she was stuck with, while the man she chose drives away with a broken nose and a file number. I don't feel anything I expected to feel. I feel like someone who just watched the last move execute exactly as drawn up. Now I drive home. The stream goes live again at 9. Day 15. Donovan resigns. He does it quietly, the way men like Donovan do everything when the audience disappears, without the performance he'd have given, if there were still something to gain from it. His resignation letter cites performance-related circumstances, which is the corporate equivalent of a confession written in invisible ink. A Meridian employee leaks it to a gaming industry forum that has been cross-referencing my stream for a week. The forum does the math in 40 minutes. The thread hits 600 comments by morning. He leaves the Meridian parking structure for the last time on a Tuesday. Clips a concrete barrier at low speed pulling out. Minor wreck, airbag deploys, nobody hurt. A Meridian employee photographs the crumpled front end from the lobby window. The image goes into the same forum threads within the hour. Nobody sympathizes. The wreck becomes the visual shorthand for his exit. A man who couldn't even leave cleanly. Sloan's situation at Meridian deteriorates with the specific efficiency of institutional abandonment. Her career had been built on proximity to Donovan's department, his projects, his client relationships, his institutional weight. Without him, she's laterally managed within a week. Moved to a satellite office, project lead designation revoked. Access to the senior team quietly gone. The way access always goes when the person who gave it is no longer there to maintain it. She texts me, "Can we talk?" Read receipt. Phone face down. Stream goes live at 9. Vesper's in the production queue again. She's been in every stream since the first one, moderating, managing, keeping the signal clean. We've developed a rhythm in the production calls that I notice without examining. She knows what I'm going to say before I say it, finishes the technical thought so I don't have to, and has a specific dry humor about audience behavior that I find myself waiting for. She mentions during a production meeting at Pelican Court that she's been on singletune.com since her own divorce 2 years ago. She says it the way she says most things, practically, without self-pity. The values test asked me what I'd been through and what I believed about people after, she says. I wrote 3 paragraphs. The first match I got had written almost the same thing. She pauses. Not the same experience, the same conclusions. I ask what the test asked. She reads me one question. It's about what you believe people owe each other after they've been hurt by someone they trusted. Whether you think that debt transfers to the next person or whether it dies with the relationship that created it. I'm quiet for a moment. I'd answer that differently now than I would have a year ago, I say. She nods. That's the point of it. We stay on the call longer than the production meeting requires. I notice this. I don't say anything about it. Neither does she. Donovan shows up at Pelican Court at night, day 17. I hear the car on the gravel before I see the headlights. The specific sound of tires on loose stone, slower than it should be. The sound of someone who isn't sure they want to be here, but came anyway. I'm in the ocean room. I close the laptop, walk to the front door. He's on the porch, hunting knife in his right hand. Not raised, not pointed, just present. Loose in his grip, the way something is loose when the person holding it hasn't decided what they're going to do with it yet. I stand in the doorway. I don't move back. Salt air, diesel from the marina, faint, carried on the wind. The ocean behind the house doing its flat, indifferent thing. The porch light catching the edge of the blade, and the dark circles under his eyes, and the specific expression of a man who has lost everything in 3 weeks and has come here because he has run out of other places to direct it. Long silence. You going to use that? I ask. He says nothing. His grip on the knife shifts slightly. Not tighter, just different. The adjustment of a man who suddenly hears how the scene sounds from the outside. I've got 47 minutes of you on camera from the dock and dram, I say. Your car on the coast road behind mine. Your face in the parking lot. I uploaded it to a secure server the morning after it happened. My lawyer has the link. If something happens to me tonight, it goes to the sheriff's department and the gaming industry forum and the VP at Meridian before sunrise. I pause. I'm telling you this so you can make an informed decision. He stands there. The knife stays loose. She wasn't worth this, I say. Not cruelly, just accurately. He gets back in his car. He drives away. The gravel sounds different under departing tires. I stand on the porch for a moment, hands steady, the cold aluminum edge of the doorframe sharp against my palm. Then I go inside, open my laptop, and send the footage to my lawyer with a timestamp and a 2-sentence description. I think briefly about what I almost did with Renata's password 2 weeks ago, the email thread I could have forwarded. I had been right about one thing. That move would have made me someone I didn't recognize. This move, standing in a doorway and explaining the consequences with complete calm, this is something I recognize. This is the version of me I can live with. I note the difference. File it. Sloan finds out about the dock and dram confrontation the way she finds out about everything now. Too late, from the wrong source. She follows Donovan to the marina bar. I don't know this until I'm already there, standing in the parking lot in the dark, watching Donovan's taillights disappear down the coast road. She pulls in behind me, parks badly, the car at an angle, gets out. You ruined everything. Her voice carries across the parking lot. Inside the dock and dram, through the windows, I can see faces turning toward the glass. The bartender has stopped moving. Someone near the door has their phone out. I turn to face her for the first time since Petra's kitchen. She looks the way people look, when the story they've been telling themselves stops working. Not guilty exactly, not sorry, but stranded. Like someone who has been running a route that no longer leads anywhere, and has only just noticed the ground has changed. You ruined everything, she says again, quieter this time. I let a beat pass. The Christmas lights over the water are still strung the same way they were in the geolocation photo. Salt and diesel in the air. The same bar, the same lights, the same water. Different night, different terms. I set the keys on the porch rail, I say. You were already free. You just didn't know what free cost. She opens her mouth, closes it. 41 receipts, I say. 14 months. A buried HR complaint that is no longer buried. A parking structure photo that is now in a file with a number on it. A stream that 2.1 million people have watched. I pause. I'm not the one who ruined everything, Sloan. I'm the one who documented it. She stands there. The phone near the door is definitely filming now. I don't look at it. I look at her, and what I see is the end of something. Not with grief, not with anger, but with the specific clarity of a man who has been looking at a board long enough to see every piece. My lawyer will be in touch, I say. I get in my car, I drive. The coast road is empty and cold. Window down, salt air, the water dark on my left. I don't accelerate, I don't look back. The divorce filing lands on day 22. My lawyer, a woman named Sutton who comes recommended by Ellis, and who reads the dossier in one sitting without a single visible reaction. Files in the county where Pelican Court sits, not Ashford Heights, which is where Sloan's lawyer expects it. The jurisdiction matters for asset division, the separate streaming income, the coastal property deed from Celeste, the 3-year archive of financial documentation. All of it is in order. All of it is filed. All of it is exactly where it needs to be. Sloan's lawyer calls my lawyer and asks why the filing was in Miracove County. Sutton says, Because my client has been a resident of Mira Cove County for 4 months. Any other questions? There are no other questions. The settlement takes 11 days. Sloan's lawyer is competent but working with bad materials. A client who destroyed property, a client whose affair is documented in 41 receipts, and a refiled HR complaint, and a parking structure photo that has been seen by a gaming forum with a long memory. The streaming income, which Sloan's lawyer had apparently assumed was hobby money, turns out to be the primary asset. The coastal property from Celeste is separate. The joint accounts divide cleanly because I have 3 years of statements, and Sloan's lawyer has 11 days. On day 22, Sutton calls me with the final terms. She signed, she says. Okay, I say. You're not going to ask what she got? I know what she got. I built the offer. Pause. You're a strange client, Sutton says, but not unkindly. I've been told. I put the phone down and stand at the folding table for a moment. The board is still on the wall. 41 receipts, 3 corroborating witnesses, 1 refiled HR complaint, 1 parking structure photo, 1 geolocation screenshot. The hard drive casing at the base, cold aluminum, corner edge sharp. The deed from Celeste under a coffee mug. I take the board down. Not in anger, methodically, the way you clear a game board when the match is over. Receipt by receipt, photo by photo, statement by statement. I stack them in order and put them in the encrypted folder on the drive. Then I fold the corkboard and put it in the recycling bin outside. The wall is bare. The ocean light comes through the window, pale and flat and indifferent, the same as it always is. The stream goes live at 9. Vesper's in the queue. She's been running the community board for 3 weeks now. Not just moderating, but building. Organizing the section for people rebuilding after major life changes. The one where someone posted my first stream and where apparently people have been finding each other in the specific way people find each other when they've been through the same thing and have arrived at the same conclusions. She's at the Pelican Courthouse for the production meeting. This is new. She'd been remote until this week, when she mentioned she was passing through Mira Cove on her way up the coast, and I said the folding table had room for a second laptop. She sets up across from me. Her habit, I've noticed over 3 weeks of production calls, is to pull her hair back before she starts working. A quick practice movement, no mirror needed, purely functional. She does it now, opens her laptop and starts checking the queue without looking up. The community section is growing, she says. People are using the values framework to talk about what they're looking for. Not just after breakups. People who've never been through it but want to do it right the first time. The singletune.com question you read me, I say. She looks up. About what you believe people owe each other after they've been hurt, I say. I've been thinking about it. And? I think the debt doesn't transfer. I think you carry the knowledge, what you learned, what you won't accept again. But the debt stays with the person who created it. The next person gets you without that weight. She's quiet for a moment. That's almost exactly what I wrote, she says. The ocean light is coming through the window behind her, pale and flat. The same light that's been there since January. The same light that was there the night I drove the coast road with the window down and called Ellis and said it's time. It looks different now. Not warmer exactly, just less indifferent. The stream starts in 40 minutes, she says. I know. She goes back to the queue. I go back to the setup. The room fills with the specific quiet of 2 people working in the same space, which is different from the quiet of one person working alone. And I notice the difference without announcing it to myself. The way you notice when a weight you've been carrying has been set down and you can feel the absence of it in your shoulders. Outside, the water moves the way it always moves. Without asking permission, without explanation, without any particular feeling about what happens on the shore. I put on the headset, check the levels. The viewer count starts climbing. The stream goes live.